I've got a question for you. This
Yeah.
is a little bit controversial.
Yeah, well, it's not like we're talking kosher at the moment.
Okay, a woman's attacking you. She's coming at you.
Yeah. I'll punch her. That's where you're going. No doubt about that. Okay, and we are live. And again, Alza, host. Kay, host. How you doing, mate?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are
Yeah,
you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Are you ready? Yeah.
How have you been?
Boom!
Oh, damn! I completely forgot, man. Yeah, we'll get it next time.
Bro, have you got your drink?
I do.
Happy
Cheers, man.
long weekend.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, although I work today. Like, who the fuck works today, right?
Yeah. I should
Mm,
be grateful. I should be very grateful.
the sweet nectar of life.
Right?
I know.
How was your week?
Good. It was busy, and as usual, we had a big presentation. You watched that presentation, man? You like it?
Yeah, I did like it actually.
Yeah.
I did like it.
Perfect,
I did.
perfect.
I was quite impressed.
Yeah. Nice one. So yeah, we are going to be talking about, what are we talking about today?
Oh, we are talking about. We wanted to discuss. Okay, it's a topic that everybody knows about, but I think we should kind of just go into it a little bit. Now that we are in it, so Brexit. I don't think anyone's really covered anything on it as of yet. I haven't found anything.
Well, we're going to be talking about Brexit, but it's going to be well, if you've watched the previous ones, it will kind of lead to a lot of other things to talk about.
Yeah,
So generally, it's going to be politics today. So the theme around politics, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brexit has happened, or has it?
Well, according to the media and according to the rest of the world, it has happened. So, what have you found so far in relation to what's been happening? Obviously, it doesn't have to sound too political, just like your personal opinion on it.
No, I mean it will have to be. So that's the thing that I don't. Firstly, that's the thing I don't get is like when people say, "Oh, you know, don't be too political." Or I'm not political. If you send your children to school, that's political. If you decide to use public transport rather than your car, that's a political statement. So anything you do in your life is political. So you can't really escape that. So whatever I'm going to say is going to be political anyway. And I always thought that from the beginning, I kind of leaned to both sides. At the beginning, I thought leave would be better. But then, you know, did a bit of a research and I thought, okay, yeah, then Remain is better. And then I kind of concluded at the end that both of them are going to be the same thing anyway. So, there's some caveats to that. I think there are some consequences of what has happened in terms of the vote has happened, and we know that it was voted majority leave, although some Remainers will say that it was almost the same, and there were some issues here and there which would have been if the Leave campaign didn't say a few things that were not true, which actually I think were proven to be not true, then the vote would swing to the other side. But regardless of what has happened, what hasn't happened rather, the vote has been casted and it's Leave. So we have left, as the way they say it. So, or we are leaving, or in a process of leaving, and we haven't left completely. It's a big divorce, and it's a messy divorce, and both sides hate each other. Although in front of a judge they say they love each other, and they want to do everything civil ways. So, including the latest toys thrown out of the pram with the vaccines. So. One side says I'm not gonna give you my mother's car, and another says no, but the car is mine. I gave it to your mother, and I says no, but that's my mother's car now, so I'm not giving it to you. So that's what's happening with the vaccine at the moment. And
oh my god, maybe I shouldn't have picked this subject. You are going in right now.
But so like I said, there are some things that's going to happen, and it will affect both sides, the European Union as well as the UK. But I think they have kind of agreed in terms of the borders, so that's not going to be a hard border between the island and Northern Ireland. So some kind of conciliation there. So the big people, hopefully adults, they have come to some kind of a agreement on that subject. We'll see what's going to happen in the end, but yeah, it looks like it is sorted at the moment. But overall, in many aspects, we are in a capitalistic world. It doesn't matter if you're in the US, in Russia, or in the United Kingdom. It doesn't matter where you are. It's one big economy. So even though they're throwing their toys out of a pram, saying that you're gonna pay these taxes as a tariff, and they say we don't want to pay those taxes. At the end of the day, it's going to be the same shit. It's going to be the same shit. It's not going to really affect people that much, although you might need to get an extra stamp and pay a little bit more when you arrive into European countries. I'm talking about British people, so when you travel to the European countries, but that's not the end of the world.
Still travel though. I mean,
exactly.
It's not a problem,
and it's not a visa. I mean, for me to come to the UK, I had to go through a lot of shit, and I pay a lot of money, paying like 10 quid on arrival to at your destination just to get that stamp is honestly not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. And yeah, maybe you'll argue that your flight is cheaper than the amount you're paying for your stamp on the passport. Then maybe you should go with a more expensive travel, flights or whatever. Okay, so that's where I stand.
Okay. Right. Here's another one for you then. In my opinion, I think when I realized we were going to leave, I knew straight away that the UK it's probably going to stand up on its feet a lot stronger than when it's in Europe, to be honest with you. It just needs a little while. That's what I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, what have you seen so far? Does it fill you with hope in terms of the way things are happening, or do you think that we're nowhere near where we're supposed to be, or if it is going to get there, or do you think it was an actual mistake? Whether you think it's the same thing regardless, right?
So
do you think it's going to be a positive thing or a negative thing in the long run?
I don't think it's going to be either positive or negative. It's just going to be some of the cons that the European Union provided are going to be pros, and some of the pros that the European Union provided is going to be cons. So it's going to be balanced out anyway. I don't think that some people they argue that we're gonna take back our freedom and all. No, you lost freedom a long time ago when you went into a conservative capitalistic establishment. I hate to use that word, but that's what it is, and that's not. I'm not necessarily saying that that's. Yeah. Go on.
I want to ask you something on that. So in my look, the thing is, governments are always playing it a lot smarter than we think they are, right? So they always make it seem like it's more of a democratic vote, and it's your freedom of choice. But do you think this is something that was actually planned, knowing that the general public is going to vote leave, considering this is something they wanted to do by privatizing everything? Because being in the European Union restricts them, right?
I think leave knew. I think
it was planned.
When you say plan, do you mean that both Leave and Remain knew that it was going to happen, or what do you mean?
No, I mean that the government knew we were going to leave.
Well, government at the time was Remain. So the government at the time was Remain, right? So it was David Cameron, and then after that, that person. Don't want to even use her name.
I'm not sure about that. What's her name? Theresa May.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah,
lady.
they both always voted Remain. So anyway, so was it planned? And I don't think it was planned. Well, let me put it this way. So I think Leave knew there was a massive momentum about this. So what they did was they tapped into the ordinary guys and men and women and people who've basically got disconnected from the whole political environment, and they knew that okay, you know, those guys have no idea what's going on the ground, and they were right. So you know, most politicians had no idea what was going on in, you know, with the lives of the ordinary people, and Remain not necessarily wanted to better those lives. They knew that that's something that they can tap on to and gather massive momentum, and what a gold mine that was. So hence why they used a lot of not necessarily true statements, but also another thing that helped them was the use of social media, because Remain absolutely underestimated the power of social media, and they were still using the old arcade ways of national television. But they didn't realize that national television is mostly watched by over 50s, and over 50s majority are going to be voting Leave anyway. So but Leave didn't, Remain didn't understand that. So they were thinking, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, people, obviously British people are not stupid. They're gonna vote Leave, and but they didn't think about that's as I was saying, because they're completely disjointed from what's going on the ground. So they had no idea how poor people are, how food banks were working, and a lot of people didn't realize, because that's mostly because of austerity. So what Leave did is use frustrated and in a lot of ways people, and use that anger against one common thing which countries always do as a first scapegoat, and you know, immigrants. So that was massive.
And they blamed it on the immigrants.
That was the main message. That was the main message of, and the thing is, main characters on Leave didn't really want to go that route. So because they saw that someone called Nigel Farage is peddling that kind of scenario anyway for them, so they kind of washed their hands, like, hey, we're not talking about immigration, we're civil. It's that guy Nigel Farage is doing that. But then they were kind of both together in that fight.
Yeah. I'm with you. I understand.
Yeah, exactly. So
by the way, how many viewers have we got right now?
At the moment, 4.
If get involved, guys. Thank you for joining. Get involved in the conversation. Like, we'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts on this matter.
No, in the long answer. That was a long answer. Short answer is no. I don't think it was planned. In a way, Leave knew that there was something that they could cultivate to Leave, or maybe even come close to winning. And Remain were completely, they had no idea what was going on, and they just thought that, you know, we're just gonna win it anyway, so, you know, there's no point. Overall, there was just massive loss of money, but more importantly, there was a lot of people who basically split the country. It just split the country right down the middle, and that was a massive shock to the morale of people. That's my opinion.
Should I tell you something that I noticed at that time?
Yeah, let me just finish my thought. So my original thought, what I was saying is that I don't think it's not a good and a bad thing at the moment, but going through all the things that has happened, if the vote didn't even happen, if David Cameron didn't even come out and say that we're gonna have a vote on that, would have been better, because the country wouldn't split, and there wouldn't be a lot of money wasted, and we would still be in European Union, and nobody would be none the wiser, because the situation didn't really change that much. There you go.
I'll tell you what I think on the matter. I think when the vote came out, to be honest, I was one of those people who was a little bit ignorant about it. If I may be honest, in the sense of, I live in London, I live in the diversity city, and what I realized was how undiverse the rest of the UK is, like in terms of the population that lives there. Because when you're in London, you can get so mixed up with the diversity, different cultures, different races, different backgrounds. But in this case, I noticed that I woke up the next day thinking, okay, we should definitely stay because we're in the UK, we understand all of this stuff. But then when the immigration story started falling through or coming through, that's when I started realizing, okay, well, we have a little bit of a problem here, like especially with immigration. I mean, I don't want to say it's racist in any way, but at the same time,
there were some racist people, there's no question about that, but that by no means but by no means I'm not it wasn't all people who voted Brexit due to immigration are not racist. The majority of them are not racist, but there was a racist element there. It's proven. So there's no denying that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
that, by no means that's not something that was going to skew the vote. So it's not like all the races were voting because of immigration. That's why they won it. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, for me, I would just completely taken back by the fact that there's so much lack of diversity outside of London.
Mhm.
Well, obviously the major cities, of course, you've got Manchester's lots of immigration happening there at the moment. Birmingham, we already know about. Liverpool starting to take shape in that sense. But when you're looking at it from a London perspective, at one point London wanted to split and become its own nation. Like some people were having this kind of conversation.
Yeah, because they had a completely different opinion about immigration versus the rest of the country.
Exactly, and that's my point. That's what made me realize, whoa, hold on. Even in the UK, we're still not as much as diverse as we think we are, unless we're in one of the major cities, which obviously leads on to the point this year, why a lot of people, lost their heads with the whole racism movement, about equal rights in that aspect.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that, by the way, bro? I don't want to call them riots because they weren't exactly riots, but the demonstrations that got a little bit out of hand, by bringing down statues, bringing down.
Oh, you mean that one? I thought you were talking about the previous one, which was proper full-on riot.
No, that was a while back.
Yeah. Okay.
That went on for a couple of months.
I am not too sure about that, to be honest, because I didn't really pay that much attention purely because that was just not worth my time. I think that was partly fault of the left. And I don't think that they. I don't want to go into too much detail, but if left goes too extreme, then the right will catch up, and if the right goes too extreme, then the left will catch up. So those two need to be balanced out. At the moment, or at the time, left was going big time. Not in the politics, but in society, left was going rocket high. And you can see that from the movement of Jeremy Corbyn, etc. And I think it partially was their fault, and I think we're going to touch on that in a minute, of some groups taking the advantage of the movements and stuff. But but I think they went too far. I don't think they needed to, and as I was saying, I didn't really pay too much attention, but I don't think they should have destroyed those statues. Yeah, he was a slave owner. Yeah, whatever the case was. Maybe just leave it there and everyone knows who he is. Nobody was going and worshipping that guy, and nobody was going and saying that he's an amazing person. Nobody was taking school trips there saying that guy was a saint. The statue was there, and I would guarantee most of those people who've taken it down didn't even know that statue existed, or if they knew that statue existed, passing every day by that statue, they probably didn't even know who that was. And this thing spiraled out of control, and they just like, oh, okay, let's the herd the herd psychology. They just join the crowd and just do whatever everyone else is doing, and I think that's not right. So they shouldn't have taken down the statue. Maybe there should have been something done locally by the local council. And maybe they should have had a meeting with the residents and what do you want to do. Yeah, exactly. I think left just went too crazy there.
Yeah, no, I think you're right 100%. There was a way that could be brought down, just enough pressure and petitions onto the authorities that look after the area, and that would have been brought down. I believe it would have been taken down. There's been many situations where a lot of people have got behind the movement, and they've done it in a way that it's not as aggressive. And the petition is eventually, especially when it went public or maybe on social media, when catching a lot of momentum, then that way they would have been forced to do something. And the first one, the time they take off the first one and it's been done correctly, then it's just a matter of, okay, the next one's gonna go and the next one's gonna go and the next one's gonna go. Like, take for example, look, the thing is, a lot of people don't realize sometimes what representations are, right? So take for example someone like Stalin. Under Stalin, I think 20 million people died from starvation.
Maybe from starvation, but there's way more who if you had people who killed, yeah.
it's a lot deeper than that, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand, but you know, just on a level where it was for, you know, the situation didn't allow anybody to live comfortably, and people died because of it, right?
Yeah, and there was a massive.
But
It was a fear control with fear. People didn't trust their own family members, their own brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, because they could just go and,
Yes.
and say something in the wrong place, and they would be arrested and sent to gulags or executed. And that,
Yeah.
how harsh it might sound, but that was the truth.
Yeah, it was the truth. No, definitely. And but the point I wanted to make about that is that like certain Russians you speak to in Russia, they still revere Stalin, for example. Do you
Oh, yeah,
understand what I mean?
absolutely, of
Like,
course, yeah.
they absolutely think that was the last time that they had a person in charge that, you know, put Russia on the map, or USSR in those days, you know. So that's the thing. Again, it all depends on what it represents to people. So, for example, the people that lived in this country that weren't getting involved in the slave labor, like back in the day, right, in
Yeah.
the slave trade, yeah, they're none the wiser because they haven't gone out and seen what takes place, right?
Yeah.
Because remember, all of the slave trade wasn't being taken to the UK; it was being taken to other places where the territories were managed or run by the English colonies.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to process whatever commodity it was in terms of export, and they were bringing it back to the UK. So in this country, the statues that were being built and being revered were not recognized as the fact that, okay, this guy was someone who used to trade slaves. It was probably as someone who, oh, look what he's done for the country. Do you
Yeah,
get what I'm saying?
exactly. Yeah, because
it's the
slavery at
people
the
in
time
power
was
that are
looked at
putting this.
as a norm. So at the time when the statues were put up, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, but now that we're at a position in where, you know, we're learning to educate each other, and we're learning to educate our understanding of different societies and different cultures, then we need to be able to also understand that the best way to get something done is not by, you know, reacting. Because look, the reality is, if you've been stereotyped for a reason, yeah, that person that's stereotyping you is expecting you to do something when they trigger you, yeah. So then they can justify that stereotype. So for example, let's say for example, I have an Arab background, right? If somebody walks down the street and they trigger me and they call me, for example, a terrorist of some kind, and I react, yeah, why am I don't need to react, just because in that sense it's proven that, you know, my background is what's the word here, is an extremist in some sense. So when you talk to me, I'm just going to snap straight away. Do you get what I'm saying? I got no tolerance for whatever you're going to try and call me.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go towards that stereotype, because the perpetrator is expecting me to become that person. The only way I make that person understand that I'm not that person, or what he wants me to be, is by doing the complete opposite. So
no, of course, yeah. No, I agree with you. But you know, you shouldn't kind of go down to that level that they're expecting you to be. Or but there is a limit, though. Obviously, when they are trying to insult you by saying that and expecting you, like you said, to react in a way that they would expect you to react. But if you don't, then they'll start questioning why that is. And but there's always a limit of how much insult that the person can take, you know. So if the person is just going, like, you know, you'll tell them like, hey mate, okay, you know, that's your opinion, you know, whatever, you just walk away. If he keeps following you and this, like, you'll just turn around and smash him in the face. But no,
okay, that's a completely different issue, right?
yeah, exactly.
If you feel like somebody's absolutely gonna, you know, come at you because you reacted,
you have to defend yourself.
You have to defend yourself. Of course, you're allowed to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But if it's a situation you could just walk away from, like for example, the statue wasn't killing anybody, right? So all we had to do was leave it where it is and
have a civil discussion.
Take the right precautions. Huh?
Have a civil discussion. What council had to do was get everyone in one room, or like in the olden days, all the leaders, all the greybeards into a set hall and then talk about this. But like residents should have
You're
just
right, 100% community leaders. Involved in all this.
So just get the people in and understand the voice of people from all sides, and including the native people who lived there forever, but also the people who have emigrated, maybe the third, fourth generation, as well as the first generation immigrants, and you know, also just random people who oppose that idea. Just get them all understand and get a vote. And if majority wants that statue to be removed, don't remove it.
Just remove it.
There is another aspect to that. Maybe it's the statue of a person, but then there's another person who actually was commissioned to build that, to create that statue. what about that artistry behind that? You know, do you see what I mean? Somebody who actually created that, maybe that should go into a museum or some other area where it could be stored and understood. Because if you don't know who are the bad guys, then you don't know. Then you kind of forget the history, right?
Wasn't there like an uproar back in the day when the Taliban were starting to destroy some of the old?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same. Exactly,
it's the same principle, right?
What they did was, which it still sends shivers, you know, down my spine. Is that's such a. And then after that, ISIL or whatever you call them did in Middle East as well, and in a lot of historical places, but. In Buddha in Afghanistan, it was sitting there. Imagine how many craftsmen people had to build that with their hands. They didn't have any technology, and it was their soul and heart, and they just put a couple of C4s on the statue and fucking blew it up. Like, why? Well, we know why, because they're radicals. They're brainwashed, and they would you know, kill their own mother if it was written on the book. But that's the way they operate. I mean, it's not just them. It's any religious person, and we've touched upon that a while back. A religious person doesn't think rationally. They think with how would they get to a next stage where they would be in heaven. That's the sole purpose of them. They don't necessarily need to be a good person. Their goal is to do something until they get to their goal, and that's completely stupid way of doing this. But that's beside the point. We've already spoken about that. But yeah, with people destroying statues, I think it was just people going too far and just, you know, joining the herd and doing what everyone is doing. And probably, to be honest, that was probably staged as well. Not staged. Provoked or planned, and same thing with the riots way back as well. Everything was, you know, planned and calculated, and a few instigators, they just get people to rise up and do all the horrible shit.
I just opened my second beer.
I've still got some. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, so no, exactly. See, like, this is why I said let's start with that first subject and let's look where we are. We've ended up in Afghanistan. We travel the world right now.
No, also, when I said left, I mean the few other groups as well, and I want to talk about this because it's affecting. Believe it or not, it's affecting my son from he's 6 right now, and he's already affected by these things, and he comes home. I don't know if it's his teachers who have the same opinion, and or he hears it somewhere else. His self-esteem is different when he talks to him, when he says that he's a boy, right? Man doesn't do this, man does that, man does this. So and I keep telling him, like, no, that's not correct. You know, that, you know, it's the same for both sides. The one side is not more clever than the other side, and or stronger or anything like that. They're both the same. Actually, women are slightly more clever than men, proven to be. The IQ is just tiny bit in some areas, in some subjects it's higher than men on average, but mostly it's equal. And like these groups with the feminists and other I was like, what are you guys doing? And so I was in a conversation with a few people, and look, I understand women didn't have a right to vote. I get that, but I think if you think of that, if you're in that opinion, that is true, that was part of the history, but you need to think back why they didn't have the right to vote. And after that, at the moment, currently, they're saying that, you know, women are getting paid for a specific job. There are not enough CEOs, the same amount of CEOs as men in the top like 5% jobs, and it's all fucking loads of bullshit.
Can I let me interject?
I can prove my point, but yeah, go on.
My sister said something to me the other day. Yeah, we were having a little bit of a chat about, you know, the radical feminists, right? So she was like, you know,
not even radical, mate. I actually changed my wife's opinion on this by just asking questions. But go on, I'll talk about that in a bit.
I'll tell you what I mean, right? So obviously, some women, you know, they demonstrate for and they ask for equal rights and in pay as well, and that's perfectly fine. It's understandable, especially if they've been merited to get it, right?
Okay.
If they've got the experience, if they've got the credibility, then there's no problem with that, right? You know, we know a CEO that's a woman at the top of her game, right?
No, of course, yeah, no, go on.
So my point is, so what my sister was saying, she was talking in particular about specific aspects of when movements lose their mind. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what she said was, she goes, it's funny how these crazy feminists, you know, these feminists that are really extreme in their way of thinking regarding men, they always want to discuss about things like they want to be you know, equal in terms of CEO, but I never hear any of them saying I want to have an equal job, right, and an interview in being a cleaner on the street.
Okay. So exactly, and I'm glad that it was your sister who was saying that.
From a woman,
Yes,
and it was
yes.
my sister who has children. She's independent. She does all of this kind of stuff. So,
but this will come from me.
It's a good point, right?
Yes, of course, and I am 100% with all my heart, because I have a daughter who is about to be born, and I have a wife, I have a mother, and I know, you know, some of the struggles. Let's put it this way for now. I don't like to use that word, but some of the struggles that women had to go through. I get that, but I was talking about this with my wife, because she follows a few prominent women on Twitter, and she got brainwashed a little bit. So she was talking to me about a few things, and I said, well, okay. So I asked her a question. So do you think that at the moment women are systematically oppressed versus the men, versus men? And she said, yeah, of course. You know, look at this and that. And I said, okay. So can you give me one law that's applied to women or to men, but not the other sex? And obviously she can't answer that. And can you tell me one specific systematic thing that's applied to women to men as a benefit, but not to women as a benefit? Again, there is no answer. And then I was going on through, like, when you talk about these things, first of all, remember that you also have a son, right? And you have a husband, and you have a dad. So when you say that women are oppressed with this and that and this, think about what it's going to do to the next generation. Because at the moment, when she actually agreed with me, actually when you say that, I noticed it in him as well. The new generation men are being brainwashed, and their self-esteem is so low that they think that we've oppressed these women. Oh my God, that had nothing to do with the people who might have done, which they haven't, but who might have done. They think that, okay, we owe something, like we should always, you know, feel like we should be lower, or we should hold ourselves back and let them do something. Do you see what I mean? And their self-esteem is crushed to the ground, and they don't feel being man. They don't feel good being man, and to that point that every day on the fucking news, on TV, on the newspapers, you always hear like, oh, this man raped a woman, oh, this, you know, another man did this, another man did that, and, you know, all these top 1% men are doing this to the economy. It's just non-stop. When you see this thing, you can't unsee it, and that's just revolting to me. But I'll give you a few examples. I gave you one already. Like there is no systematic oppression. It's just a myth, but people just follow that, especially the left. They just blindly follow the agenda. And the other aspect of it is people say that women are paid less. Okay, so you think that that's one thing. So women are paid less, and there is a proof that, you know, there is a study apparently, which I read, which was saying that women are paid on average about 20-30% less for a specific job. But that's just taking a head count of how many women and how many men. It's ignoring every other, you know, aspect or every other criteria that goes on into a job or hiring. Because first, there is a difference between man and a woman biologically, which is, it's a fact. Every woman has, you know, every man in the world and every woman in the world was birthed by a woman, and majority of women, and the ultra you know, feminists are going mad right now, but every majority of women actually give birth, and that has a massive impact in their career, and that has a business wise. Remember, business doesn't care if you're a woman or a man. What it does is it cares about you know, saving a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what they do. They would probably pay a man more also, because the man doesn't have to go on a maternity leave, and possibly he starts on the career ladder way earlier than a woman. And again, maybe he works longer hours, like he stays back and works long. I'm not saying that women don't do that, but I'm talking about on average. that is proven that men do that more statistically throughout the world, right? At least Western Europe.
So what you're saying is, just to be a little bit sort of clear on this, what you're saying is the reason why companies would make a decision in that aspect, and this is correct in saying this, because all companies and every business exists on a how much profit do they make and how much cost do they get in terms of their investment in a person,
and they don't care if it's a woman or a man. Yeah.
In terms of return, yeah. So what you're saying is it's almost like a risk thing, right? So it's like, okay, look, we know we can pay a specific amount, but at some point, if this happens, you know, it's going to have an implication in terms of the cost measures that we're going to run, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm talking about is a systematic issue here. So on average, all women and all men are never going to get the same amount of salary for the same job, because you have to add other criteria. And so yeah, people will say like we need to have the same equal opportunities, like your sister was saying, you know, well, why don't we have the same amount of, well, why don't we have the equal number of nurses as men? That's going to be that's going to have a massive impact on men's psychology if there is a quota of men to be exactly the same number of women. Why don't we have equal number of women on the front lines in the army or going to war? Why don't we have the same amount of women in the prison system? Oh, they'll say, oh, because men are more violent than women. Like, well yeah, in a way, correct, but also women also say that well, feminists also say that women are more targeted outside on the street when they're walking around. Actually, that's not true. Men are more targeted by men, but men on average are targeted more than women, and statistically speaking, men get murdered more as well. And but women
this is the thing. This is what I mean. This is what I mean, bro. Like, in today's society, the society we live in, the news that comes out in that moment in time, it blows up to an extent where everybody forgets about doing a little bit more research just over the whole idea, right? So one thing, look, the thing is, I'm for equal rights. I don't give a shit who you are. I just believe that everybody should be treated equally, regardless of sex, orientation, background, whatever it is, color, sexuality, gender, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Everybody should get treated equally, especially if they have the credibility to do good at to be doing what they're doing. Yeah. But for me, there's things like you said, this has become a society where they're just moaning about every single little thing that comes out. And one of the things that is coming out that I was thinking about the other day, I was like, hold on, okay, so I'm hearing for a while now about how men are just absolute pieces of shit, right? So more men on average, you know, commit suicide. Sorry,
I'm talking to the chat. Yeah, go carry on.
Oh, okay, yeah. So more men on average between a certain age, I think between their 30s, commit suicide, right?
That was something I was going to talk about as well.
Yeah, and the other thing as well that we have a problem with, that no one really understands, is that a lot of the conversation sometimes when you're discussing males and females and the equality, you hear the story which is like, you know, the woman stays behind, she raises the children and she does all of this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is men, they go outside, they do what they've got to do, they work to put bread on the table, and people are forgetting that it's also painful for a man to go and spend so much time outside of his house and not have so much time with his children. He barely sees his children grow up. Like, for example, when they're a young age, he comes home, they're probably asleep. On the weekends, he might have to work extra. Do you get what I'm saying? It's always like a one-dimensional point of view, instead of people just kind of spreading it around and thinking, okay, here we go, we've got males, they sacrifice this, females, they sacrifice this, and having a proper conversation about it. It's always trying to, who's going to beat the other person, and which gender is going to beat the other one, and who's going to get the one on top, and who's going to be, do you get what I'm saying? It's always a competition. It's just never, okay, let's have a discussion about the best way we can have a balanced lifestyle as a female and as a male who's got children as well in a relationship. So these are the things, like you hear about, oh yeah, I'm spending all of this time, I have to multitask, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and it's like, but you get to spend so much time with the children regardless, you know. And I think for a lot of men, that's a painful aspect. I know that for one of my friends, that he works long hours, bro, and he's got 2 children, and the thing that he says to me, he goes, it drives me crazy because I get to spend no time with my children. If I could be stay at home and someone else can work for me, then I'd rather do that, because at least I'm spending time with my children. And then you to a point, or is they have at least maybe 6 to 7 hours while the kids are in school.
Uh-oh. Okay, I think we're losing you.
And these are
The connection is dropping. You're cutting off.
to develop you in a different aspect. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I think we got most of what you said. Your connection is dropping, mate. Anyway, so what I was going to say is, we'll wait until... Are you back? Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
your network went like crushingly down. It's like it went like really bad, and then I think you're back now. No, I think you're back now, or maybe not. Yeah, he's cutting off. We'll wait for him to get his network back again. But what I was going to say is, Kay, if you can hear me, to conclude what I was saying is, I'm quite passionate about this because with the things that my son was saying, and I didn't want my daughter to go through the same things as well. I am 100% like yourself, support the equal opportunity for something. If a person, he doesn't have to be a man, or he doesn't have to be a woman, but a person, if they have spent equal amount of time for to look after their career, and they have reached a certain point in their life where they want to apply for a specific job, I want them to have the same opportunity as a man. And I think that is given at the moment. And my team at the moment, you know, I can give you my team as an example, with predominantly girls. If it was the other way around, it would be predominantly men. So, but because we see that the experience and their loyalty and what they can bring to the team is amazing. That's why we hire them. So, one thing I'm 100% and absolutely against, and I'll, you know, any day I'll defend my point on this, is I'm against any quotas and against any kind of equal outcome scenarios. I don't want to have same number of CEOs as men and women. It would be nice to get to that point, but it will never happen because men and women are just different. In the same way, I wouldn't want to see all the bricklayers to be in equal number of men and women, or the nurses to be in equal number of men and women. I think that's a bad thing to go with. If the opportunity is there, if somebody wants to be a nurse, if somebody wants to be a bricklayer, if the opportunity is given to them exactly the same way as the opposite sex, then fair enough. Then you know that is what I'm for, and in terms of pay and everything else and the rights. But systematic oppression of women is a myth, and anyone who says otherwise is either lying to you or brainwashed themselves, or they have no idea what they're talking about. Oh, and I wanted to say, a lot of people put this as a good example of you know, why this is why women were oppressed, is because they didn't have any rights to vote. I'll give you an example. They actually didn't want to vote. Because at the time, you know, as we were saying, when the law was abolished, by the way, by men, men, you know, obviously allowed, not allowed. Men fought for the right for women to be the same as men, and women were against that. And majority of women, people, there were some women who are actually, people are saying that they were amazing and courageous and all that they were marching on the streets to fight for the rights. But the truth is, majority of women didn't want, because number one, they needed to pay more taxes as men. They had land tax. There are, you know, there are obligations when you have the right to vote. You have some obligations and things to do for you to get that right. And a lot of women didn't want to have that obligation. They want to live there free of any taxes or any rules or anything like that. They just want to take care of their family or whatever they want to do, make a business. Women were allowed to make business, but not pay taxes or do any of that stuff. So men thought, well, that's bullshit. Let's make them equal. But then they forgot one part.
Bro, you know what?
The army, the draft.
You know.
We're talking about. Dragonoid was saying that, but not Arab countries. I agree with you. A lot of Middle Eastern countries and Asian countries are not equal, and that's a different matter. We're talking about mainly about Western European and North American countries. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, what I was saying is, like, when it gets to like you said, there's some countries in the world, where there is oppression 100%. It makes complete sense. But also at the same time, what people don't realize is during the American Civil War, yeah, when Abraham Lincoln, he signed the Proclamation Emancipation or something like that, yeah. He realized that actually having this huge population of the black community on his side is going to help him win the war, yeah. So it became sort of a practical thing to allow another community to become, in a sense, well, they still never got given freedom in that aspect, but they would sort of given a little bit more rights because it benefit the society. So like you said, there are a lot of things that people don't talk about. Like, for example, when people talk about the voting of women, they talk about the suffragettes. They don't talk about maybe the men that wanted women to vote, because there was certain bankers after the 1920s depression in America. Certain banks started opening banks especially for women, because they knew women are actually better with money than men, because they save a lot of money, they look after the money in the household. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they gave them the opportunity to have their own bank accounts. They gave them, and it was just strictly for women. Nobody else was allowed to have any bank. The bank wasn't open for males. It was just a strictly female bank. You know, you'd go in and it would be lavish inside. You know, it won't be just a standard bank the way you go in and you see it today. Even in back in the day, it was just strictly for women. You had like your little sort of pampering corner. You know, you come in, there's like a seat, you get pampered while you're sitting down, and while you're waiting, you get all of these different kind of services that women expect, like when they're going to the hairdresser, and this is going to the bank.
Yeah.
So, like you said, bro, everybody in this world, if they want to earn it, they have to be credibly equal. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. Forget the countries that are oppressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We think they need to change.
Countries we live in, it's all on your credibility. I'm just so sick and tired of people complaining about how their life isn't changing, and they want equal everything, and they don't want to do anything about it. They just want to leave it exactly the same and just get given to them. And that's the kind of bullshit that I don't like, because I've spoken to plenty of my sister's friends. They have kids, right? And I know a lot of friends that have children as well. They're women, and when I've discussed these aspects with them, the first thing they say is, all I want to do is be at home with my children. I'd rather be with my children than be anything else, especially at a crucial part of their life, right in the beginning of their life. Do you get what I mean? So this is, as much as maybe, like you said, as much as maybe they're still entitled to go and work whenever they choose to go to work, but they start understanding that when you have a child, it becomes a different responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of the feminists that talk about this kind of stuff, for example, especially the radical ones, probably a lot of them don't even have children, bro. They don't probably even have, like, they might be in a relationship, but they might not have
your
children.
priorities change, and your outlook of the world will change, because you will stop living for yourself in a sense, but for your children. And I get the point, and nobody will ever know what that feels like until you have a child. RBT was saying
what it's gonna be like.
RBT saying that how about the wife's property belonged to her husband, but it was before, though. Now it's fucking reversed. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, how far are we going back? Say again. Go on.
I was gonna say that really gets on my nerves. You know, when like a man, he works all his life for everything. He builds this whole empire for himself, and then he gets a woman. She comes into his life, and then they stay together maybe 15 years, and then she gets half of everything that he's ever created for what?
Yeah.
In some cases, they take more than half of what is. I don't mind getting something towards the children, maybe having a specific payment, or maybe 10%, 15%. Do you get what I'm saying? And having an ongoing payment every month, alimony towards the children, or child support, or, you know, maintenance in that aspect. But she gets half of your money, half of everything you earn, and at the same time, she can go on and marry and do all of this kind of stuff in the future. And she's earned half of your shit, gonna earn half of the other man's shit, and then at the same time, you'll probably marry again, knowing your luck, you'll probably divorce again.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying? And then she takes half your shit as well. So it's like,
well,
that's not fair.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
there has to be a cap on it. There has to be.
Yeah. But I think there is. I think legally speaking, I think in terms of law, maybe it can be improved, but I think it's not too bad. So what it says is,
but I think it is vice versa at the same time in the law as well. Like if a female has all the earnings and she's made shitloads of money, or a billionaire, I think the male can also.
No, well, illegally yes, but well, hear me out. So if a man spends a lot of time in terms of career and develops his whatever business, and he makes, you know, a lot of money, And if that only allowed him to do that by not looking after his children, and his wife takes time out of her career and spends with her children, meaning to develop the family, then what the court will say is that, well, look, from the time that either your children were born, or when she starts when she quit her job just to look for after the family, all the earnings that you've had, half of it belongs to her, because there are some other criteria, like the skill. Maybe the wife doesn't have the same amount of skill as a husband, maybe to earn money, right, and other things. But anyway, let's just in terms of the law,
still make payments to, bro. Imagine you're a billionaire and you're paying a woman £3,000, £4,000 a month, £5,000, £10,000.
well, they say that,
and then you're covering everything else at the same time.
well, that's the improvement that they can make.
Get all of that and take everything else.
Well, that's the improvement what I was talking about. But how it is at the moment is that they say that the wife has the right to the half of whatever the husband has earned. But what I was saying is that maybe the husband has skills to earn that amount of money, whereas if it was left to a woman, vice versa, she would have just probably, I don't know, possibly even excelled more than him, but most likely it was going to be the other way around. Hence why it was left to the husband to do all the money making, right? So, and there are cases.
Maybe if you didn't spend 7 hours just doing your nails in salons, spending your husband's money, you could have probably developed the skill. Like, come on, man.
Well, yes and no. I mean, man can do the same thing. Maybe they shouldn't go to a pub. There's always a contra argument to that thing, saying that.
Both ways, bro. Both ways.
Yeah, exactly. Both ways. But what I was saying is, and the reason I think it might wind you up. Law is not the same. What I was saying is earlier, if any law is applied differently to a man or a woman, and my wife couldn't answer, but there are some laws that are applied differently, but not in a way that you think. The same law is men are punished more in terms of court of justice more than women for the same crime. And given higher sentences to men than women, and that's a proven fact. Statistically.
Hit a couple of booms right there. Hit a couple of booms.
and as I was saying, if, the other way around, when a woman is the person who makes the career and man is not, then there will always be more lenient. The court will always be more lenient towards women, and that is a good example of female privilege rather than male privilege.
Let me tell you a little story. It's a little bit funny, yeah. One time, my car, it ran out of battery, right? I must have left the lights on or something like this. And I've got the jump leads in the back of the car, bro, I promise you. And I just went outside and I was trying to stop some cars, and there was a taxi driver that I stopped. I know he's always got charge, and it just takes a couple of seconds, bang, and the car's ready to... So the first cabbie, he didn't stop, right? And I was with a female friend at the time, and then I told the female friend, I said, look, you know what, let's try this. Can you try stopping them? Because I tried a few people, they didn't do it. Bro, I swear to you, on the first car stop, which was also another taxi, he was happy to help. Do you know what the first guy said to me?
What?
He turned around and says to me, he goes, it's a taxi, so I don't know, the charge is different, mate, and you got to get underneath it and all of that kind of stuff, yeah? And it's difficult to hold up, yeah? And the guy, that my friend, she stopped, had exactly the same taxi. He was like, yeah, no worries, love, I'll help you out. She put him over to the car, and then she goes, yeah, my friend here needs the thing, he knows how to do it. It's like, all right, love, all right, I'll help you out, because I said I'll do it. But because he realized, oh, she's with someone else, he was like, oh shit, my moment's gone now.
Yeah.
But you see, I couldn't do it, even if I probably dressed in a skirt and showed my legs a little bit. No one's gonna stop for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are plenty of examples when people will say, well, how about this example, when someone I know was doing this and this has happened, or I did this and this happened. I think what we need to do is, and in my opinion this doesn't happen quite a lot, is to divide or to differentiate between the anecdotal side of the evidence versus the actual things, the statistical proof of things that are happening. And as I was saying, like with another privilege is that in the army, if you want to join the army, man has tougher rules to join the same regiment as the same rank than women.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, so the women have easier tests than men for the same exact job. And
Is this legit, or is
it
this
is.
all across the board, or
No,
just
it
in
is.
specific countries?
No. It's just if you want to join the army, let's give it. Let's say SAS. If you're a woman, then your tests are much linear than men's, because what they said is that the women's bodies are not built the same way, and they can't carry physically, exactly, which is correct. But that's a privilege that's afforded to women, but not to men. For example, for the jobs that are highly more paid for women than men, for example, in STEM science or areas, or doctors, not surgeons, doctors, because majority of the time surgeons are male, and again because it takes a long time to get there. But most of the STEM industry is dominated by women, and they actually are trying to attract more women because I don't know why, but
Which industry did you say?
STEM, STEM. Well, it's like microbiology, virology, and all these dealing with chemicals and producing, the pharmaceutical industry and science and stuff like that. So women are paid much more than men, but not much more, considerably more than men. And these anecdotes, if we go with anecdotal examples, there are a lot of examples when I can give you a woman who is paid much more than a man for a specific job, and then works in a job that wasn't given to a man. There are plenty of examples, but those anecdotal, we need to go away from that. Those specific examples. What we need to do is look at the whole picture from the bird's eye view. Is what's going on? Is there a study, and what kind of study that's doing? Are there all criteria that has been applied? But I think we're going off track here. All I wanted to say is that I'm against the equal outcome, but I'm 100% for the equal opportunity. And I think that's, if everyone thinks the same way, rather than thinking of quotas, like we were talking about movies having casts in a certain number of genders, certain number of races. I think that's wrong. And even yesterday I was watching this movie, a series actually, with my wife. What was it called? The Irregulars. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, that's just recently come out.
Yeah.
Netflix is just throwing that in my face at the moment. Like,
watch it. It's quite good. It's quite good, but again, it has the same problem as I was mentioning before. It's just you can't have a. Anyway, we spoke about that. So you need to be true to the history. You can't. Again, it's a fiction. We get it. That's why I left it. Like, okay, I enjoyed it because it was fiction. But even fiction, you have to have some kind of a historical aspect to it. You can't have an Asian or a Middle Eastern looking person to be the head of the state, or a black person, like me and you. Like, imagine me becoming a king of England, right? I mean, that's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. Like, you can't have that. So like in a similar way, as much as I would love to play that role, and I would have probably taken the role because of the paycheck, but no, jokes aside, equal opportunity would I think is best. And but
you gotta get rid of Prince Philip and then you're in, mate.
No, I know. Well, Prince Harry's there.
Huh?
Prince Harry is there. Probably somebody who looks like me will be a king at some point.
You can take him out too, man. You can take him out as well. Don't worry.
Oh man, that
sure
was another thing.
Love a dark, handsome man.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with it. And another thing why I was so fucking flabbergasted is that this was such a massive thing, and apparently it was an issue in the royal family that Harry's son is in a different Pantone color to everyone else in the royal family. I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like, we live in the age that you're in right now. We're not living in the dark ages. If you film or if you record a film of that era, then I get it. Yeah, you can't do that. But now we're living now. Like, you can't live in Middle Ages with the same rules. But anyway, so in terms of politics,
the interesting thing about all of that shit that took place, the interesting thing about all of that shit that took place was the whole point. Like, initially, this is what made me start thinking, okay, well, you know what, this is getting a little bit suspicious. Like, first of all, I feel sorry for Harry because he's a good guy, but the most important thing is when they initially decided that they wanted to leave the royal family, the first reason was because they wanted to get out of the public eye. Yeah. Because they didn't participate in all of this. There's constant attention on them and so on and so on. So the first thing that they do, well, probably her planning, right? You can tell she's kind of the one who's dictating the movement. The first thing they do is you don't stop seeing them in the social medias. You don't stop seeing them. Then Oprah's doing a flipping interview with them, and it's like, well, I thought you got away because of the whole, you know, press publicity and you lot being in the public eye, and now you're even more public than you were before. Now you're causing even more controversies. Like, that's when it got a little bit suspicious for me, and I was like, you know what, this is all about just clicks, man.
Yeah. No, there is an element of that, but they did say at the beginning is that they're not getting any money out of it, but they got publicity anyway. But I think to be honest, I think it wasn't a problem that they did it, but it was more of a problem of what was going on. And to be honest, if, for example, Princess Diana did that early on, or got out early on, probably she wouldn't have died. And you know, the royal family's rules would have probably
some sensitive topic today, bro.
Then the royal family's rules would have changed. But everything put into one basket and put it aside. The best part of that was for me Piers Morgan with his tail in between his legs, storming off his own show, of his own hosting show, by a mixed race guy telling him the truth of what it is. Sam mostly
but
the truth.
That's his colleague, right? That's his colleague.
And best part of it is that he's a weatherman. A weatherman is out debating Piers Morgan to the point that he gets up and storms out of the room. I think that was like pure gold for me. That was the best part of it all. It was all worth it. Meghan Markle doing interviews and people shouting and saying that the royal family is racist, industry or establishment or whatever. It was all worth it just for that moment for me.
Yeah, no, listen, that guy, he likes to blow a lot of crap up his own ass, man. Like,
it's funny and interesting the first time, the second time, the third time. I mean, if you carry on doing that, I mean, it's fucking ridiculous.
How would you like to fill in the quota and play a Zulu chief? Okay.
Well, that would be a problem because they would have to paint my face in black, and that's the problem.
Then we have an issue. Yeah.
Then
we'll probably get taken down.
Yeah, exactly. And I might molest a few women on the way there, and you know, the Zulu women, and then they would probably accuse me of, well, you know, let me put it this way: touch the shoulder of a few women, and then they would accuse me of raping them. So.
Listen, shall I tell you something at my old workplace? What happened?
What's up,
bro? It was so bad.
Before you do that, I need to backtrack on that. Some rapes, you know, did happen, and we know who they are. But a lot of the accusations outside of the famous ones that we know actually destroyed men's careers, and that's what I meant.
Yeah, 100%.
The lies.
This almost happened. It almost ruined this guy's, you know, whole reputation.
A lot of people. Yeah, go on. Sorry, your thing,
bro. I remember the conversation, how it was, because I was actually there. I don't know what took place afterwards, you know, between the ladies and whatnot. But one of the gents at my old workplace, I'm not going to name anything regarding this, he must have, like, he's got a good relationship with the female. He's got a good relationship with the person. So he obviously just, it was a nice summer day. She was dressed up well. She looked very nice, and so on and so on. So he just said to her, "I like your dress. It's quite nice." You know, that's all it was. He didn't pay attention. Anything else. All he said to her was, your dress is nice. You look nice today. You know, that's all he said, right? Later on in the day, some kind of situation developed, and I don't know what happened, but one of the girls must have heard it, and then she went up to the other girl and she said to her, "Why did you accept what he said? Like, don't you feel a little bit sort of embarrassed about it and whatnot?" And you know, I'm surprised that you're just very calm. And she was like, "Oh, I didn't think he meant anything by it." And she was like, "What do you mean? Like, you know, maybe you should think about it a little bit more. Maybe it was being meant in a way where it's quite offensive." So the more the girl started thinking about it, she started getting a little bit sort of preoccupied with the thought. So then before you know it, these 3 or 4 of those ladies, they're having a little discussion about it on a smoke or at a cigarette break. And they come back, they go to the manager's office. One of them goes to the manager's office and she puts in a harassment. She files for harassment, right? On the basis she heard it. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them, they go back inside. one after the other. And then all of a sudden, you know, the guy's getting called in for harassment reasons. He's into interviews now, and now they're starting to, conduct an investigation. And he was on his way out, but he fought tooth and nail for it to act. In the end, it took the girl to be reminded that when he said this to you, did you feel offended? Do you get what I'm saying?
What? Okay.
Yeah. So she had
Not that was not that what he said is offensive overall. Like, if do you see what I mean? But were you offended about that? Okay, were you offended? Can you say sorry and then move on?
Did you feel offended?
Like, he didn't mean it clearly.
Because he said to. Yeah, he was justifying. He was like, I didn't mean it in any way. Like, what you guys on about? My intentions were always pure behind the whole thing. Like, I always say things to her, and she's never reacted like this. I don't understand why she's reacted like this time. But obviously, somebody else must have heard it, and they started instigating the whole thing. And he went inside, and then they asked her again. She said, "Did you feel offended by what he said? And is this a natural occurring thing that has happened before? And are you guys okay with each other? Do you feel threatened by him?" And she said, "No, I didn't." So it took them to actually go back and ask her again whether she felt, you know, really hurt by the whole statement or not, in order for him to keep his job. But he fought tooth and nail, by the way. Like, I have to give him a lot of respect, because he was like, you guys need to ask her again, because I don't think you guys have asked her properly. And whoever heard the conversation, you can't take that into consideration, because at the end of the day, this is a relationship with this person. So anybody else is going to hear it in an offensive way. I'm speaking to someone in particular, and I'm not discussing it with anyone else. How can you say, if I imagine I say to you, bro, I like your t-shirt today, it looks pretty nice, it's pumped you up a little bit, and then some guy around the corner,
I'm gonna block you,
turns around and goes, yeah, I'm gonna block you. Like, well, what's going on here?
No, I'm gonna block you from the stream. No, but I get what you're saying. But the thing is that we know, and let me say something, and then I'll backtrack on this. When I say backtrack, I mean I'll give you some backstory. So
just don't get off the air, bro.
Man, like, this is what we talk about. Like, you like it, stick around. You don't like it, you know, it's a big country. So we know there are a lot of at least a couple of famous monsters who have harassed a lot of women, and they I don't know if where they are right now they deserved it or whatever the case, but you know, there was a court and they did what they need to do, and the case is closed. But I think what they did was atrocious, and they shouldn't have done that, and they clearly took advantage of their position. But at the same time, there are a lot of other men who were wrongly accused, and in that scenario that you just mentioned, imagine if let's change it a bit, but let's just say that she lied, right? Hypothetically, let's just say she lied about everything that he said. He had nothing to do with it. She even went to the point that said that he actually touched me inappropriately as well. If that actually didn't happen, and we just go with the process, and there will be a process, there would be discussions and the hearing in the company, whatever it is, and they discover that the girl was lying. Okay, so they said, okay, the girl was lying, you are reinstated back to your position, it's all good. But it's not good though, is it? The guy's reputation is gone down the drain. Probably this process will take a long time. Probably the guy gets divorced by that time by his wife, or his friends will block him in every way, because everyone at the moment wants to be away in a distance from any kind of rapist.
No one wants to be associated with other people like that. Yeah,
exactly. And even though he's acquitted, he would always carry that badge on his chest until this whole thing is forgotten. And it's very difficult to forget these kind of things. Even though he's acquitted, he didn't do anything like that. And these things happened a lot. So a lot of companies, I don't know if you noticed, since the movie producers and that guy who facilitates politicians in his island thing came out, a lot of companies, they started to build meeting rooms out of glass. They literally demolished the walls and put the glass in, because they want everyone else outside to see what's going on inside, because anyone can be easily accused of what's going on between one-on-one meeting between a woman and a man, but nobody can see it, and the court will always go for the girl's side. It's just what it is. And it's one of the examples of what I was saying, is that sometimes law will favor one side than the other. So the backtracking of it is that we hear about the rape and sexual abuse and all that, and I think it is bad and it should be stamped upon, especially against women. But nobody is actually thinking or talking about men being abused or sexually abused or raped, especially if you include prison system. And
that's my point, right? It's always one side or the other, and it's never the other side. Like when
actually,
everybody's talking, they're always talking about one aspect.
Yeah, actually, if you include prisons into the equation, men are raped more than women. And so the problem is that it's very difficult for women to report a rape, and the statistics that we have at the moment are completely skewed and not correct in terms of that's not the whole scope of the issue. So it's much bigger than what it is in terms of women reporting the rape, right? But the other side of the coin is that it's even worse to get men reporting this, right? So men will just not report this ever. Like they will not do that.
Of course.
And if we don't have this, if you think that what women are reporting and not reporting, and because of those not reports that are not brought to the government's attention or to the law's attention, is really bad. Imagine how skewed and how unknown the other side, like the men's rape and men's abuse, and not necessarily sexual abuse. We also need to take into consideration the mental abuse of men at home. Men tend to be physically aggressive. It's just in our DNA, and some men can control it, some men can't, and those men will end up in prison, whatever. But overall, men tend to display their anger physically, not by hitting somebody, most likely, but punching a wall or stamping their foot on the ground or something like that. But women, they tend to, and again, this is not just me. It's a study done. They tend to psychologically affect the person or mentally. If there is an abuse going on in the household, if it's a woman who's abusing, most likely it's going to be a mental abuse. And these figures are completely.
Definitely. People don't mention this though.
Yeah,
People don't talk about this stuff.
There was a story that came out a while back where a guy just couldn't take it, and he was like, paramedics went into the house and he had to say what was going on. Like he was abused by his girlfriend to the point that she was actually burning him within the iron, and like she, in the end what happened was I think she stabbed him with a kitchen knife, and paramedics had to go in and find out what's going on. And
see, that won't be documented in the news as much as
exactly. Oh my god, yeah, exactly. So that's another bad aspect of what's going on today, with the left going crazy about certain aspects of life and not the rest. So that's what I was going to say, is that abuse towards man and mental state of man is completely undocumented. Is not even thought, is not even looked into or investigated, or even studies done, or anything like that. It's just an afterthought for a lot of the cases. And well, men are stronger, right? So tough luck, mate. So
do you know? I read an article. This was a while back when this sort of like it was before all of this harassment thing blew out. And in the article, it said it wasn't even in the front papers. It was just like some sort of article somewhere in the middle of the paper. It didn't even matter at that point. And they were talking to a guy who was working in I think it was retail or something along those lines, and his manager was into him, right? But he wasn't into his manager, right? She proper made moves. She hinted all of this kind of stuff, and at some point she would go by and she'll squeeze his butt, right? And he was very offended by that. Do you get what I'm saying? He didn't like it. One, because he doesn't have a physical attraction to
Actually,
her.
You're saying that a similar thing happened when I was working in a hotel with a person I know, and she was a manager as well. Yeah.
So the guy, he felt really offended, according to the article, and maybe to back it up, we can find it at some point and then just show it, just to say that we're telling the truth. But he got to the point where he was really offended by the whole situation. So he must have went and tried to speak to other people about it, because it was really, it was really affecting him. He hasn't given consent, and he has no reason to have someone touch his butt, especially when if he went and done it to someone else, there'll be an absolute crap. So anyway, every time he spoke to someone, they're like, "Just deal with it, man. You're a guy." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's
Well,
the
it's
situation?
it's a
Why-
joke.
why-
It's
why-
people joke like, "Oh my god, you're a guy, mate." Like, it's a girl. Like, why? What are they complaining about? It's always treated like that. You're a guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, how can you be
exactly.
raped? How can you be sexually abused? You're a guy. Well, or like, you know, do you remember the
The guy is telling him this. Like, it wasn't even. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
know. Even guys do that. Yeah. No, I get that. What was that movie? God damn it. It's about the horrible bosses. Have you seen that movie, Horrible Bosses? There is a scene where a dentist is being raped by his boss, right? And that's why he wants to kill her.
Is it Jennifer Aniston?
Yeah. So, reverse that, right? Just do that. Like, imagine instead of Jennifer Aniston, it's some hot dude, and instead of the guy dentist, it's you know, an average girl, let's say, right? So the hot boss is like, you know, the model, you know, does like let's say David Gandhi, okay?
It wouldn't have flew as well, mate. No
Okay,
way.
so imagine if it was done as a joke in that sense. Is it the same thing or is it not?
No.
And if you're a girl
No,
right now
in our
watching this, or
society, no.
if you're a girl right now watching this, if you reverse that scene, would you laugh at that, or would you think that, oh, actually they're going too far? And if you think that they're going too far, and you laughed when he was a man, well, there's a thought, isn't it?
Bro, just take into consideration when a comedian is making a joke about a rape, right? Where a woman is raping a man, how everybody's like, "Yeah, woo, yeah," everybody goes up in cheers. And if he went and said
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
thing about a woman, he'll
He-
silence the whole room.
Well, yeah, and he'll lose a career as well.
Straight away.
You're not allowed to. And
Yeah.
that is another part of a problem. And look, I'm not saying men's problem are more than women's, or
No,
vice
just
versa.
be equal with it. Just be equal with the whole situation.
I think when you say, or when you talk about the problem and oppression, and which is bad and it shouldn't be happening to a man or a woman, but if you're talking about an oppression against a specific person or a sex or a religion or anything like that, you always need to think a bigger picture. Is it, how about the other side? How about, you know, oppression against men? Do we have any data about that? Do we know anything about that? Because in every woman, everyone has a father. You know, some of you might have a brother. The same way as we think about you girls is that, you know, we have a mother, we have a wife, we have a daughter, and we know, like, yes, we understand when you walk down the street and there is a construction going on, you might be, you know, wolf whistled and stuff like that, which is not pleasant. We get that. But then at the same time, you might be abused at home by your husband and stuff like that. We get that. But think of a bigger picture. How about that guy who lives next to you, who's always quiet when and there's always shouting in the room? Would you straight away think that, oh, is it the guy who's abusing his wife, or wife abusing his husband?
Yeah, this is
99
true.
Like, if there was someone there who lives, like, someone like me who lives there, who would probably think, okay, let me think about it. But most of the time, 99% of the time, the first thing that comes to your mind is that, oh shit, his husband is beating his wife or something like that. I mean, if it gets to that point when you can hear actually punches and stuff like that, or when somebody's shouting to a crazy point and, you know, like banging and stuff like that, you know that you would think that, okay, it's a guy beating his wife, and probably that is the case. But think about the bigger picture. It's not just that, you know, that there is more to everything. And at the moment, the news media is just going crazy with one-sided agenda, and I think it's bad for everyone, including women.
I've got a question for you. This
Yeah.
is a little bit controversial.
Yeah, well, it's not like we're talking kosher at the moment.
Okay, a woman's attacking you. She's coming at you.
Yeah. I'll punch her. That's where you're going. No doubt about that. If she is trying to punch me, I'll punch her back. But I will be reserved in my force
The title
force
of
applied.
this podcast should be "If a woman came at me, I'll punch her." I promise you.
I might actually do this part as an intro. Put out a little video.
I'm sorry. You didn't even wait for me.
No, but look, I get it. If it's I'm a rational. I'm probably and it's not coming from me. And every single person in my family said the same thing to me. Is that I'm the one who thinks rationally about certain situation, and I don't get There are some,
You have to defend yourself.
no,
Yeah.
there are some points when I lose my temper, but most of the time I kind of put myself away from the picture and think rationally about what's going on. But if a woman is attacking me, I would probably think that, okay, look, if I punch her in the face, she'll probably, you know, get knocked down and lose consciousness or die or whatever, you know, horrible thing that might happen. And most likely the law is not going to be for me in that situation, and they'll lock me up. So what I will do is I'll probably try to defend myself. If she doesn't have any weapons. No, well, you are allowed to. I mean, I can try and restrain her in a way, but if she's coming with me with a knife, then fucking hell, I'm gonna grab any stone, anything that I have, and I'm gonna throw it at her face. No doubt about that.
Yeah, no, we're talking physical abuse here. Like, we're talking someone's coming out to hurt you, right? Regardless, if it's a male, you're definitely gonna defend yourself.
Yeah.
But that's my question. If it's a woman where you actually feel like, whoa, this person running at me right now is
well, if they're throwing punches, then I'll try to like, look, I can take a punch from a woman, that's fine. And like we said, you know, depending on the woman, I mean, if she's a UFC fighter, fucking I'll run 120 miles, you know, I'll be gone from there. But if it depends, I know if you're talking average, then most likely I'll be able to stand my ground and restrain the person, or trying to keep my distance and, you know, call the police or something like that. I don't think I would go throwing punches myself as well. But like I said, if she has weapons and stuff like that, but the thing is, I don't think. I get your question, but my response would be the same to a man or a woman. If it was a man with the same stature and demeanor, then I would probably do the same thing. But if it's a bigger guy, then I'll probably run away as well. If it's a smaller person and is trying to attack me with a knife, then I'll probably throw anything that kind of comes to, like. So my response would be the same.
You know what I'll do, bro? I'm always running. Run.
And another thing is, you never know what that person, like, they're coming with the punches. You never know what they have in their pockets. These days of these acid attacks and knives and like it's going crazy. And so you never know what happens. So yeah, I guess the best thing to do is to try and keep your distance and try the police to resolve that.
Trying to avoid. There's always situations where they want to avoid.
There are situations where you can't avoid it, and you have to defend yourself. So there's really nothing you can do about that apart from fight or flight. And if you can't flight, then you're gonna have to fight. and it's instincts as well, right? So it's not just that, you know, a lot of times you don't even have time to think about something. It's just your instinct, and most of the well, your instinct will say, and that's how we evolved from hunter gathering and all that shit. Is that at some point we have evolved the reflex of when there is a saber-tooth is trying to attack my village and trying to eat somebody. First thing I need to do is, what am I doing? So a lot of my village has died at some point, and I realized, okay, in this situation I need to run. In this situation I need to stay and fight. And that kind of was built into our DNA, so we know what to do instinctively, same as any other animal. If you back you know, if you go if for example, if a feral cat is trying to attack you, and then you're like, making fun. Oh, again, I'm opening a can of worms here with all the cat people, me including. So if a feral cat is trying to attack you and you kind of, you know, make fun of it, you know, like back it to a corner. Sorry. If a feral cat is there and you can make fun of it, it's trying to go away, run away from you, keep its distance, and you keep going against it again, and eventually it goes against the corner. What it's gonna do? It's gonna, you know, launch to your face with his claws out.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the same way human beings. We're no different. Like if we have no choice, our brain will switch and say, okay, go and punch his face.
It's a survival mechanism. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're designed.
And most of the time, a lot of times when people do that, especially during fighting, I don't know if you're interested in that kind of stuff. I'm quite interested.
Oh, I
is
love it.
when a soldier is on his own, when all his teammates died, and the soldier is on his own and he doesn't know what to do. Eventually, he's the only survivor, and he's in hospital. He comes to his senses, like, what the fuck happened? Like, I have no idea, I have no memory or recollection. Like what made? He just like killed like 10 people and walked out of there, and he has no idea, because adrenaline was so high that his instinct clicks in, and his instinct is the only thing it has in his mind is to keep him alive. That's it.
Just to react.
Exactly.
To react to dangerous situations. And most of the time, it's about defending themselves and keeping themselves alive. That's what they're trained to do, right? To
Yeah.
kill and stay alive. So, like you said, you know, if it's a situation where it's not supposed to happen and it happens, then of course, the mind shuts down. It's the shock value, right?
Some
as
people are
well,
good
like,
at this, some
sometimes you
people are
don't
not. Yeah, and a lot of time, people who are good at it are good at like violent sports when they know what to do in a split second. Whether that's UFC, boxing, or even football.
Speaking of this, are you looking forward to the Ben Askren? Is it Jake Paul, that wasteman guy on YouTube?
Oh,
Did you hear about this?
No. To be honest, like recently, I don't really have a lot of time to watch any of that.
Basically, there's this YouTuber who's got a brother called Logan Paul, and his name is Jake Paul, and they're very, very sort of controversial.
Right.
And he's had a fight already. This YouTuber in boxing, he likes to box, and all of a sudden now, you know, he won his first fight against some NBA player who decided that he wanted, or a basketball player that decided he wants to fight. So he won the fight, and then he called out so many people. And Ben Askren, you know Ben Askren, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So so Ben Askren decided to take the fight.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's
You got
gonna
Ben
demolish the
Askren
guy.
on the
By the way.
I hope so, man, because this guy just needs an absolute beating. Dana White turned around and said, "I'll put $1 million that Ben Askren is gonna kill him, like in the ring." And then Jake Paul comes out, who's the guy who's fighting. He goes, "Let's make it $2 million a piece."
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
if he gives that
And
money,
Dana White said that on Mike Tyson's new podcast. I think
Yeah.
it's called Mike Tyson Boxing or something like that.
wow, okay. When is the fight?
April 17th.
Oh,
Make sure you stream it illegally.
No, you should have said make sure you stream it legally.
Oh my god. Yeah, bro. So what we doing? Are we wrapping up now? Are we getting close to wrapping up?
We have some time. Do you have time, or are you hungry? Last time you.
Oh my god. Yeah, you know my days on a Friday, right? It's always I'm hungry. No, I'm good, man. I'm
I think last thing.
to go get another beer and practice a little bit longer, bro. I don't mind.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna cut it anyway. So I don't cut it, but I think if it's gonna go over, then I'm gonna cut it slightly. So, I guess it depends on how the next section will go. We're gonna probably end the YouTube section of it here. So you stay on. We'll carry on on Twitch, but the YouTube section will be cut here, and then I'll put the end of it here. I don't know. Maybe what I'll do is I don't know if it's a good idea. We should probably have shorter versions of these on YouTube, and then another channel or another video, full one, saying if you want the full one, here's a link.
This thing needs to go on Spotify.
The only
crazy, man?
yeah.
What is this Joe Rogan podcast shit, man.
The only
Let's just
problem-
upload into this crap, man.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that it takes a shit of a lot of time, and you guys probably don't even realize that it takes a lot of time to edit these things. And I think we need to get to a point where we at least have 100 subscribers and or 150 subscribers, where some kind of income comes through the monetization of the videos, and then we can get an editor, and then they can edit these. So well, yeah. At the moment, I mean, look, I have a life, you have a life, and we have a job, and we're doing this part time. So something has to give in if you're gonna do the shorter version of it. Has to be like highlights, right? So the best parts. So it's gonna be difficult.
But you know what? Listen, bro, I cannot wait until I know the lockdown has been lifted a little bit right now, yeah, but I cannot wait until it's actually lifted so we can actually chill. We could do this properly.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the guys that we're gonna be spending some time with, hopefully at
We
some
need to
point.
get those action cameras out, those microphones, and go
of
somewhere and sit down and. Oh, I can't wait for
We're
that.
going on the road. We're gonna take the show on the road, man.
Yeah, true.
100%. Yeah, bro. I'm looking forward to all of this. I know we're doing it every 2 weeks right now, but last week when we did it, I was actually when I think it was 7. And when 7 o'clock came, I was like, shit, I had to get on my phone just to check in case you said to me, where are you, bro? I was going to message you, say, where are you? And I was like, oh, yeah, we're doing it every 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. No, we will do it every week, but at the moment, I think we want to take it a bit slow. As we said, first reason is that we need to be mentally and physically involved in this as much as we are right now. and want to be involved, more importantly, and the second is that we at the moment don't really have too much time. So once the COVID thing ends, and we do it together in a studio, whether that's on Kay's end or my end, and we have some kind of income that comes through with this, and we know we're not children. We know that it takes years for that to happen. So when that happens, then we will probably get an editor and do some more interesting things, and maybe go on like road trips and stuff like that, and go to interesting.
Listen, we are going to do this because we had this conversation today.
Yeah, exactly.
We had this conversation, and we spoke about some of the stuff, how we can make it happen, and we are going to make this happen. We are going, like, when we get an opportunity to go on the road, we're going to do a live road podcast. So it's going to be a podcast on the road kind of thing. It's a good show to have. You know, most people are always very stationary in that aspect, which means that we can be mobile if we have to be. We can do it. We could probably do it in a couple of months when
exactly. Yeah, but also very interesting is that we know quite a few very interesting people. They're not necessarily famous people, but they're very, very interesting people, and we would like to bring them onto the podcast and do it properly with multicams and one table, and we're just sitting there drinking, smoking, and talking anything and everything. So we have good plans, and like I said, we're not children. We know that. Look, at the moment we have like we got up to 6 viewers at some point. Now we're down to 4, and that's just part of it. And I think our content is not worse than people who are getting 20k views. And
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, someone listen, I don't want to, even though, like, you know, their numbers speak for themselves, but you know, we're talking about quality of content here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Shit see on there is crap. You know, it works for some people, but you know, we've got our own viewers. We're working for a particular kind of audience as well, and we're confident that we're delivering the right stuff. Like you said a couple of weeks back, this is something we've started off recently, so we're still experimenting with certain things. We're still going to experiment with graphics, we're going to experiment with equipment, we're going to experiment with topics, so and we're going to do things the way we feel is the best way to do it. And at the end of the day, we're going to have supporters, bro. It doesn't matter. Look, if we got 4 today, last week, 2 weeks ago we had 10 at one go. So it will pick up on its own. All of the stuff is not important. Like
exactly.
Most important thing for me is I get to spend time with you every couple of weeks, bro. Like, we're friends, and
I mean, we were doing this without the video or the stream. We were just, you know, on the phone, we were just talking about a specific subject, and you know, it kind of swells on, and then we had the idea of actually, you know, it might be interesting to put it to record this. And then we had our other few friends who might be interested in this, and they said, like, we need to do it together as a guest in the show and stuff like that. So and we know that they're quite interesting people, so we definitely should do that. And so and then they would have really interesting stories as well. And yeah, so we have good plans. What time is it now? Yeah, we're just reaching 1:30, an hour and a half. Just over that, actually. So yeah, we have big plans, and stick around, and we know you guys are loyal, whether you guys are family members, friends, or just random strangers. And we had a few strangers today. Dragonoid, thank you for joining in the discussion. But overall, stick around, and we really appreciate that, you know, you guys are supporting us, and that helps a lot, actually. Because when we reach that certain threshold at some point, the algorithm just takes over and just says, okay, these guys are not joking around, they're doing this for real. And hopefully they'll advertise us more. Because I know on Twitch, 100% it will show me fewer numbers of people who are watching this compared to the actual number of people who are watching this. Because they want to drive traffic towards people, towards the streamers who are established already, because they give them more money, right? So we don't bring any income to Twitch. So until we reach that time, then you will say, okay, you know, let's give them some audience as well. So it's not like they're removing my viewers and giving to them. It just shows that I don't have enough viewers. I don't have many viewers, and on their channels it will show that they have more viewers. And yeah, so let's see how it goes, and that's pretty much wrap up from me.
Amazing. Yeah, same. Likewise, bro. I just want to say thank you to everyone that joins in every single week, whether it's one person, two people, three, four, five, whatever the number is. It's really appreciated. Like the support is always good right from the beginning. For myself, I'm gonna say peace out and love to everyone, and look after yourselves and your families and stay safe. And we'll do it again in 2 weeks.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You know what I'm gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Have you got the button ready? Have you got the button ready?
Go for it.
Get the button ready. You ready? Boom! I love it.
He does it on his videos as well, so go and watch. Have a look at his channel. So it's quite interesting as well. Yeah. Thank you, RBT, and have a good
Peace out,
night
guys.
and happy Easter.
You too, bro. You too.